Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. I'm Harper LeBel. Along with me today is Logan Landers, our producer and engineer. And Logan is also going to be hosting with me today our founder, our grand poobah, the man who runs everything. Vincent Turner is off visiting family. He's in Memphis and making his way back to the Atlanta area. So, Vincent, safe travels to you. Merry Christmas to you. We're going to carry on a show without you. It won't be as good, but we're going to certainly try. Logan, we're going to talk about the NFL preview show, some of the things that have taken place, including yesterday's Christmas games, but all of the playoff implications. First of all, welcome to the show. And there's another busy week of NFL football, isn't there?
Yeah, you're not kidding, Harper. Like you said, we've had Monday night games, Christmas Day games, games on Thursday night football, Saturday. And like I said, we just did a whole show talking about the insane amount of college games going on as we speak and as we record this and going on throughout the rest of the week and weekend. So a lot of great football on tap.
Yeah. One of my personal taboos is going into Friday with either college or pro games. I'm just personally against that. I think Friday, as long as the season is in place, that belongs to the high school, and I don't want to violate that. But you know what? Doesn't matter. I don't control everything. But going on Friday games, Monday, the only games or only days where we don't have games is Monday and Tuesday, except for this week. Guess what? We had Wednesday games. We had two of them just last night. Weird scheduling. Kansas City ends up playing Pittsburgh. Baltimore is against Houston. Those same four franchises had games against each other the week before on Thursday night. So at least they gave them a little bit more time to prep. But you got to be kidding me when you think you play a Sunday game and then you get Monday off technically after watching film, and you get one day to prepare on Tuesday and travel and then have to play on Wednesday. Thank goodness they had Thursday games to give them a little more time to, one, rest, and two, to prepare. But Kansas City at Pittsburgh, that was an important game for the Steelers, in my opinion. They end up losing, and now they are tied with Baltimore in that AFC North. Give me your thoughts first and foremost about that game.
I mean, the Chiefs just keep winning, Harper. Everyone says this is, what is it, the worst 15-1 team out there. Look, I don't care how they get it done, right? They can score 10 points in a ball game. They give up 3. You know, they just find ways to win, and that's what good teams and that's what good coaching does in Andy Reid. This team is just, they locked in. It's the offense was clicking a little bit better yesterday. Patrick Mahomes had 3 touchdowns, as we saw, and also Travis Kelce made history. He is now the all-time leading reception touchdown leader in franchise history, beating out one Tony Gonzalez. So that's a big honor for him, getting his, I believe, 77th of his career. So just kind of adds more accolades to his already Hall of Fame worthy career. And for the Steelers, just didn't have it yesterday. I mean, I saw Mike Tomlin, a lot of the leaders on both offense and defense just said, we just didn't have it yesterday. It was just a bad day. And like you said, Harper, this might be because of the insane scheduling that they've had. And granted, that is taking a toll on Pittsburgh. They are 10-6, so they are still a credible team, but they have dropped 3 games in a row, and not by a close margin either. They lost 27-13 against Philadelphia. They lost 34-17 against Baltimore. And then this past game, this last night, we're just seeing here 29-10. So fortunately for Pittsburgh, it seems like the wheels are falling off at the worst time possible at the end of the season. But they do have one more game left on their regular season, and that's going to be on January 5th against another AFC North opponent and the Cincinnati Bengals, who would hope to play spoiler. But, I mean, for Kansas City, they've clinched AFC home field advantage for the AFC playoffs, so that was a big win for them. And we know the crowd there in Arrowhead's always helping them out. So big win for them. And for Pittsburgh, like I said, just a tough loss all in all.
Yeah, they've lost 3 in a row, as you mentioned. There's no good time to ever lose 3 in a row. But at this point in the year, near the end, when you're going to be having to go into the playoffs, that's a little bit more difficult. It's easier to lose 3 at the beginning of the year and have the momentum going into the playoffs. When you lose 3 at the end, especially with that tough schedule, maybe injuries abounding in a lot of ankles being turned and guys that have really tight hamstrings or whatever, but not really the explosive, dominant team that Pittsburgh was. They're to me, they're like a steamroller. They don't go very fast, but they certainly change the road. When you're underneath one of those things, everything changes. Baltimore reclaimed their dominance against the Houston team. Houston 9-7. They're in a weak division, if I can say so. Right? I think they are, because Indianapolis just refuses to catch up, and so at 9-7 right now, they're still a full game ahead of Indianapolis, with a vital, critical game for the Colts coming up this week. So Baltimore ends up winning. They beat Houston 31-2. That's not a good win if you're the Texans fans, but you get to move on, right? And you're in first place in the division. You'll get a home game. Tonight, we've got Seattle at Chicago. You would think that Chicago has everything to lose. Not so. Pete Carroll has been rumored to going, I want that job. I'm very interested in Chicago. At 70-plus years old, he and Belichick would be the two if he gets the job. And Bill would probably want to come back into the league. But give me your thoughts here about this game were absolutely critically important for Seattle. They're a game behind the Rams. They're at 8-7. They've lost 2 in a row. They've got to get a win in Chicago.
For Seattle, it feels like a season of one step forward, but 2 steps back, right? In terms of they look good one week and then they lose a game or two, and then, they'll win this one, and then back and forth. That's kind of the equivalent of their record all year. They're 8-7. But they are 5-1 on the road this year. So that is to their advantage. This game is going to be at Soldier Field out there in Chicago. So like I said, this is a crucial game for them. They have to win this one. I don't believe Kenneth Walker III is going to be in this ball game. They've listed him as out. So that's their starting running back, who's not going to be under in the backfield for them this game. So that is going to be something to watch out for. Expect a heavy dose of Geno Smith, and I'm sure he's up for the task. He's been in the league for quite some time now. He can get it done. As for the Bears, look, the Bears are just, it's been a rough year. I mean, you drafted them 1 overall. You had hype around you. You spent money in free agency the last couple of years, and it just hasn't worked out, right? They come into this game 4-11. They've lost 9 straight games. Their last win was back in mid-October, and that was over in London. That wasn't even in the States. So they are hoping to get maybe some home cooking and to just kind of get back on track and just come on, please, just give me a win here, because it's been a rough road for the Chicago Bears. There's people out there who were saying, oh, man, this is just – it's not going to get better, right? We draft Caleb Williams, and, they're just not getting it done. But, I mean, when you look at his numbers on the year, Harper, he's put up respectable stats. He's 16th in the league in passing yards with over 3,200. He's tied for 13th in terms of passing touchdowns with 19, and he's only got 5 interceptions on the season. So those are very respectable numbers for your first year in the league. So, I mean, I think that the blame needs to go not towards obviously just one player and your soon-to-be hopeful franchise quarterback for many years to come, but this is a whole team game. People always forget that in terms of personalities and especially with social media and everything is, you hone in on one player, you hone in on the quarterback because they're the go-to guy. But, I mean, there's a lot of reasons that Chicago has struggled this year. Look, they fired their head coach weeks ago. They're in the middle of the season. That's something that has rarely been done in Chicago. And then, so it's a lot of change right now for the program. So they have a lot of stuff to work out. They're just hoping to get through the season, I think. If you can get a win here and play a little bit of a spoiler for Seattle, I think that would raise the spirits in the clubhouse. But if you're the Seahawks, you have to win this game if you want to keep your chances alive of making it to the postseason.
Well, a friend of mine who is as thorough on knowing everything about the Bears, including the 85 season, that is to know. He and I have spoken on numerous occasions, and this is his team. And he goes, what do we need to do? And I go, it's just like any business. It's location, 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 right? Isn't that the principal rule? It's protect your quarterback, protect your quarterback, protect your quarterback. You had some really good stats that you have. Remind me, has it been over 50 now? How many times has Caleb been sacked? Go ahead.
He's been sacked. It's not just over 50, Harper. He's been sacked a grand total of 60 times on the season.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just protect your quarterback. And they weren't able to do that with Justin Fields. So number 1 picks, you only get 1 a year unless you make a trade or you give up one of your, you get none. which has happened with the Bears recently. But they've got 4 wins right now. They're 4-11. You mentioned they've lost 9 in a row. Just in the NFC alone, there's only one other team, and that's Carolina, that only has 4 wins. New York, they're right now the worst team in the league. The Giants only have 2 wins. We'll talk about them in a second. But if you win and beat Seattle, which is what your home fans are dying for, you actually punish yourself. There'll be a few teams that we're going to talk about here in the show that are going to punish themselves if they win a ball game, because they're going to get a lower pick. Instead of picking 5th or 6th, they might move down to 8th or 9th, and that could have some determination on it. But Seattle at Chicago, Seattle has to get a win there in order to stay in the playoff hunt. On Saturday, got 3 games, all of which have playoff implications. The Los Angeles Chargers, they go to New England. They'll be taking on the Patriots at 1 o'clock. That game is on the NFL Network. Denver, who has to keep pace with the Chargers, is in Cincinnati. And by the way, the Bengals need to win to keep themselves in the playoffs. And then Arizona, who was eliminated last week, they are going to be going to Los Angeles and SoFi Stadium to take on the Rams, who only have a slight lead against Seattle. Are you getting the picture? It's kind of complicated, folks. Logan, break down Saturday's games. What's intriguing to you, or at least more so than maybe one of the others?
So I'll just start off at the top with the Chargers in New England. I expect LA to walk away with a win in that one. I think that this is a good ball club. I think that the coaching over there has drastically improved this team. I mean, I said before the season started, I didn't think that Los Angeles would be in the position they're in right now, fighting for a playoff spot. I thought this would be another season before they really got into that kind of second gear, as I like to say. But I mean, credit to Coach Harbaugh and Justin Herbert and all the tremendous running game they have with Dobbins and Williams. I mean, they've really helped out, so that's been good for them. And look, for the Patriots, it's a rebuilding year. There's no question about that. Brand new head coach and Jerome Mayo, hoping to just kind of find an identity with the team, right, and build a new culture after the long reign of Bill Belichick. So it's just kind of the growing pains is what New England's in right now. So I fully expect the Chargers to walk away with that one on the road in Gillette Stadium out there in Foxborough. An interesting one, though, and probably a really tough one here, is Denver and Cincinnati, right? So I was looking more in depth at the standings here, Harper. So with the Chargers and the Broncos, they're both at 9-6 on the season. However, the Chargers win the tiebreaker over Denver. That's based on their head-to-head record. So if you're Denver, you're rooting for the Patriots. You've got all the gear ready for this Saturday. You're hoping that the Patriots pull off a win and that they can end up winning their game against the Cincinnati Bengals, who, look, we see Cincinnati that they have had just a tough year, right? I mean, it's been, if you're a Bengals fan, you've went through, it's like a roller coaster. So many ups and downs. There's been some good games. There's been so many close games you've lost by 1 point, 3 points, a touchdown. I mean, this team isn't getting, beat up by 30, 25 points. I mean, these are really close ball games, and they've been winning. They've won 3 in a row, Cincinnati has, right? They've beat teams that they're supposed to beat. They beat the Cowboys by 7. They beat the Titans by 10, and they got the dominant 24-6 victory over the Cleveland Browns here recently. So they have 2 games left in their schedule, this game against Denver, obviously, and then their final game of the year against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So really good matchup to end the season there in the North. But if you're Cincinnati, just got to keep winning, because you kind of hope you can maybe slide into a playoff spot there at the end, into a wild card spot rather. So that's going to be an interesting matchup all in all there, and a good quarterback battle with Joe Burrow and Bo Nix. And then the final game, as you mentioned, Arizona, the Cardinals taking on the Rams. I mean, the Cardinals, right, they started off the year solid, but they kind of fell off, and they're now eliminated from the playoffs. So they're now hoping, Harper, to just kind of play spoiler with the Rams, who they are in first in their division out there in the West. Like I said, just right ahead of the Seattle Seahawks. So, the Cardinals have a good lineup, obviously. You've got Kyler Murray. You've got Marvin Harrison Jr., who you've drafted. But then, when you look at LA with the Rams, you've got the veteran-led team with Matt Stafford, who's still getting it done. Been in the league, 15 years now, and he's still just throwing it like he's 20. So he's doing great there. Puka Nacua, they're glad that he's been back. He was banged up to start the year, same with Cooper Kupp. So it was a little bit of a late start for LA, but they've come on nicely here towards the end. And I think that when I look at this ball game with the Cardinals and with the Rams, I might go with the slight edge for LA in this one. Arizona, like I said, you see the flashes, right? You see the potential, but I just don't think that they're quite yet. And I think the Rams, they're still showing that they're going to be the top dog in the West.
Yeah, and the Rams, just to keep pace with where they need to be and to get that home field advantage, need to win the division. And they can pretty much assure that with a win and then with the Seattle loss. The interesting thing to me, Logan, about Cincinnati, and you brought them up, they're 7-8, right? So they're one game below 500. Their point differential, they're plus 30. They're plus 30. So when they win, they beat you by 7. When they lose by a point or 2. Yep. They're 7-8, and they've scored 423 points and only given up 393. But it's hit miss with them sometimes. But they have to win, absolutely. If they do, they win this game, they win next week, they will have 9 wins. And then if 2 bad losses occur with either the Chargers or the Broncos, they got a chance to get in. So this is the Dumb and Dumber line. So you're telling me there's a chance. But if Cleveland loses, they're done. Their season is over. So very interesting of how they will play. And they haven't been great at home this year. They just have struggled. Another team that struggled mightily is the New York Jets. On Sunday, they go to Buffalo. Anything good can happen from this game for the Jets in the gang green perspective with Aaron Rodgers and all the things that are going on with injuries and countless other things. Talk to me about the Jets.
I feel like, Harper, we're hearing more about the Jets off the field than we are about what they do on the field. And that's not what you want. This past week it came out that allegedly, right, that Woody Johnson's sons are helping run the team and that they're looking at Madden ratings for players about who they should pick up. And of course, all the off the field drama with Aaron Rodgers over the past couple of years. And it's just not worked out. It has just been just not good for the Jets fans when you were hoping that, Rodgers could help maybe turn the tide. But that's just not going to happen. Then you're going up against an absolute, a buzzsaw in Buffalo, who's 12-3. They've got 2 really impressive wins. They beat the Patriots by 3, tight game, but I'm looking at the week before when they beat Detroit and they put up 48 points. So Josh Allen, right, perennial MVP candidate, if not, the winner in some people's eyes. He's had a great year. And someone who's just improved year by year. And look, we said Buffalo for years now. They've been favorites out there in the AFC East and saying, all right, is this the year they're going to make it to the Super Bowl? Is this the year they're going to make it? They're going to win one. And so that we're kind of on that track once again. But for New York, I mean, look, you're just trying to get through the rest of the year and see what you can do in the off season. There's been rumors flying around that either Rodgers will be released, be traded, might retire, right? Because he isn't, I believe, 40 or 41. So it's not like he's a young guy anymore. So if you're New York, you're just kind of hoping, honestly, for the season to be over with already. So you can go ahead and start looking for free agency and for drafts. But for the Bills, I think they'll take care of business, no problem.
Yeah, one other year, another one for the Jets in the offseason. What are we going to do? How are we going to be able to compete with either now the Bills or with the Patriots? Next game I want to look at, 2 teams that aren't rolling. Well, the Raiders won. They ended up beating Jacksonville, kind of hurt themselves a little bit. They only had 2 wins going into that game, going against a 3-win team in Jacksonville, and now they both have 3 wins. So they moved down in terms of their draft status. But you know what? Those guys are there to win. They want to play. They're going to be going to New Orleans. Give me a real quick thought about, what is New Orleans? What's going on there, and what are they going to do in the offseason?
Yeah, New Orleans, 5-10, right? I mean, they start off the year red hot, right? 2-0, I think, and they scored all those points, and like, oh, this is the year, right? Watch what we're gonna do, and that's not been the case, right? They have struggled. They fired Dennis Allen earlier in the season, but like I said, they have gotten slightly, better here in somewhat recent weeks. They've won, they're 3-3 in their last 6 ball games, so they are a little bit better, but. They're just not getting it done, right? Derek Carr, he was hurt. Spencer Rattler came in. And he I mean, he put up numbers, but I wasn't really blown away by anything. But yeah, I mean, for New Orleans, still, I mean, that's the thing with New Orleans is they have so much calorie. I'm thinking about all the Christmas food still, Harper. They have so much cap space that they've just spent so much money on all these players. Half of them don't even play there anymore, and they're still paying these guys. So they're going to have to definitely go and restructure some deals this offseason if you want to compete. And as for the Raiders, I'll just quote what my father said, who's a Raiders fan. Even when they win, they lose. Because as he said, they won when they – I mean, look, I know you don't want to ever lose. You don't want to tank. You don't want to get a better draft pick. But the fans, right? The fans, they've been saying for weeks now, we got to get Shedeur Sanders. We got to get Cam Ward. We got to get somebody. And like I said, they got a win last week, which is great for the team and great for Antonio Pierce, who's trying to hopefully retain his job after this offseason. There's been, rumors speculating about that. But they got the close 19-14 win against Jacksonville. But I think that the Saints will take care of business in this one and go to, I believe, 6-10 on the year. And for the Raiders, like I said, they'll fall to 3-13, and just a disappointing year where they've been beat up by injuries as well. They haven't really been healthy all season.
Yeah, real quick, Indianapolis is in the same boat that Cincinnati was. They've got 7 wins right now. They're going to go to New York. They're going to take on the worst team in the league. Indianapolis should come away with a win. They'll be 8-8 with 1 game to go. The difference between Cincinnati and Indianapolis, I mentioned just a moment ago, Cincinnati has a plus, 30 exactly. I was thinking it was 31. Indianapolis, their differential at this point, they're minus 41. Both teams have the same record. So the Colts going to New York, going from indoors to outdoors, that might be an issue. But in terms of motivation, there is none to win in New York right now. Take the number 1 pick, live with it, lose your games, and get over with. I know that you're not supposed to tank, whatever. It's an unwritten rule. I get it. They don't want to lose, but I see Indianapolis coming away with a victory here. What about you?
No, I'm with you with that, Harper. I think Indianapolis should take care of business pretty handily in this one because, like you said, it's just that the Giants, they've got nothing to play for. I mean, they really don't. They're the guy they paid all that money to, and Daniel Jones, he's not even with the team anymore. He's with the Vikings as a backup. So the big guy you had in terms of money-wise, he's not even with the program. You have Malik Neighbors, right, who I think he's had a really good season, but I mean, that's really your lone bright spot. I mean, like I said, you are the worst team in the league for many reasons. And I don't think Brian Dable will be there a whole lot longer on the sidelines personally, just with how bad they've been in recent years. But for Indianapolis, like you said, they've had an up and down year on the year. Anthony Richardson has been hurt a little bit, but he also didn't practice today. I saw a report came out a couple hours ago because of a foot injury. So we'll see if he even suits up or if he even has to. But I think that overall, though, Indianapolis, regardless of who's at quarterback, they've still got Jonathan Taylor, who's a really good running back. So I think they'll take care of business this weekend.
Another 1:00 game on Sunday. This is going to be Dallas at Philadelphia. Early in the year, I got to watch this game. Yeah. Then Dallas kind of fell apart. The Phillies pulled away. They're 12-3. They're going to win the division. It's clear. Last week's loss by the Commanders assured that. But even though they won, the Commanders won, but Philly had such a big lead that didn't affect it at all. Dallas played their hearts out this past week. Tough game. I'm not sure if they're going to recover from the bumps and bruises of that, but they go into Philadelphia with everything to win and really nothing to lose.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're an Atlanta Falcons fan, you were a giant Cowboys supporter a couple days ago because they beat the Buccaneers and that put the Falcons back in first place. So good for them. And for the Cowboys, I mean, honestly, Harper, I didn't think Cooper Rush would be this reliable, this good. He's done really well for the Cowboys in absence of Dak Prescott, who's been out. I mean, Rush has thrown for over 1,600 yards, 11 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. He's been sacked 12 times also, so he's able to avoid some pressure in due time. But they've really done well, I think. And like I said, look at Dallas, Harper. They've won 4 of their last 5. But to me, it's the case of a little too late because they've been out of the playoffs for a little bit of time now. And just that middle of the season really hurt them, right, when they were losing games left and right and injuries were happening. So that was a tough call for them. And for Philadelphia, look, like I said, that was a tough loss to Washington. they lost by 3 and a really good performance from the Commanders. But for Philly, you've got really nothing to worry about. This is just you make sure everyone's healthy going into the postseason, and that you don't have any major injuries, or you just going in there with a couple scrapes into the postseason where guys can just get some ice and they'll be fine.
Well, next game we're going to look at is Carolina on the road against Tampa. We just mentioned Tampa and Dallas. That was a very hard-hitting, close game, but there at the end, Dallas just kind of pulls away. Has Tampa run out of steam? They're tied with the Falcons, as you mentioned, but Carolina's been playing a lot better. They don't appear like it, but they're not losing by as much as they did earlier in the year. They're starting to get things together. I certainly don't want them to get everything together against the Falcons are the end of the season, but it'd sure be nice for Falcon fans to see Carolina pull an upset and get a win in Tampa.
No, it would be nice. And when you look at the Panthers, it feels like, after Bryce Young was benched earlier in the season in favor of Andy Dalton, he's come back and he's looked a lot better. It looks like that kind of in a way he gained confidence from just kind of maybe taking a step back and just relaxing for a little bit of time and saying, look, I just need to slow it down a little bit. And Bryce Young, to his credit, has looked better this season since that happened. Chuba Hubbard as well, their running back. He's done really well also, kind of a hidden gem for a lot of people. But I think that Carolina is a team that's on the rise. They still don't have that true number one receiver. I know they drafted Xavier Legette this past draft. He hasn't really I'd say lived up to expectations in terms of what people might have thought going into the season. He's still their second best receiver in terms of yards, and he's just a little bit better in terms of receptions. But Carolina, they've got some good pieces in place. So, like I said, they're hoping to play spoiler here. For Tampa, like you mentioned, Harper, tough loss for them this past weekend, but they have a good program. Obviously, Vincent's talked about Baker Mayfield and how well he's done. And look, after this game, he'll go for over 4,000 yards on the year. He's got 34 touchdowns at this time, 15 picks. He has been sacked 37 times, though, so they are prone to getting past the O-line and getting to Baker. So I think that this is going to be maybe a little bit tougher, a little bit of a tighter game than people might say. But I think that it's going to be a bit of a fight, but I do think that Tampa will pull this one out in the end, though.
In the game that I'll call the Who Wants It Less Bowl, we're going to talk about Tennessee and Jacksonville. Tennessee goes on the road. They're both 3-12. This has draft pick implications all over it. Who wants this game less?
I mean, both. At this point, it's just like you're hoping. It's like, all right, we're up by 3. How can we mess this up? Oh man, I got butterfingers. I dropped the ball, or just look. It's two rough teams. It's two teams who are they've had a bad year. For Tennessee, they're 2-6 on the road this year. I mean, it doesn't really help out when Jacksonville's 2-5 at home. So it's Will Levis, who look, it's been rough. Remember when they got rid of Ryan Tannehill all those years, a couple of years ago, in favor of Levis, and hasn't really worked out, I don't think. I mean, Levis is he's 12 touchdowns, 12 picks, a little bit under 2,000 yards on the year, so he hasn't been lighting it up. And look, for the Jaguars, they've been without Trevor Lawrence for a couple of weeks now. So the guy they bought the Brinks truck up for him, and he's been hurt. So it's been a rough sled for them, for Jacksonville. But I mean, Jacksonville's also, they've spent some money on some guys too in the offseason, right? They spent a lot of money on they got Christian Kirk a couple of years ago. You brought over Calvin Ridley a while back. You got a lot of money on the defense, and it hasn't worked out. So, I mean, like you said, Harper, this is like a tank bowl in a sense. The Who Wants It Less? It's really it's not going to be high quality football. Right? I think that unless you're a fan of these teams, there's a lot of other better options to watch this weekend.
Yeah, I think Tennessee has probably fallen from grace a little bit more and much more quickly. You get rid of Derrick Henry, you get rid of your starting quarterback, you get rid of a team that had a chance to get you in the playoffs every year. If you're one of the remaining Titans, you're going, what the heck is going on here? What have we done? So both teams are 3-12, unless there's a tie. One will be 4-12, and we'll win this game and probably have a celebration in the locker room, but we don't know what that'll be. It's just an interesting perspective. hey, we've had 3 teams, and this is the third of the 3 that if they win, there's still a chance. And that's Miami going to Cleveland. 7-8 right now are the Dolphins. If they win this game, 8-8, they might go 9-8, and they may have a chance to sneak in, but only if the Broncos and the Chargers end up losing both of the games that they have in the remaining portion of the schedule. Outside chance at all, but if you're going to keep yourself healthy in terms of the chances to get in the playoffs, going to Cleveland certainly isn't a bad way to do it, is it?
No, not at all. And like I said, the Dolphins, they've won 5 of their last 7, so they are getting hot at the right time, maybe. But like you said, they're just holding on for dear life in terms of trying to get to the playoffs because of how well Buffalo's done this well in the East, and a bunch of other teams in the AFC as well. It's a crowded field there, right? They're under 500. If they win this one, they'll be at 8-8 on the year. But I thought that Miami would do better. But obviously, look, we saw the early injuries really hurt this team. We've seen that Tyreek Hill hasn't been as sharp as years past. So it hasn't worked out for Miami. But for Cleveland, we talked earlier about the Jets and just kind of what a mess they are. But God, for Cleveland, it feels like they're good once every 5-10 years, and then something just falls off the rails. We've talked about the Deshaun Watson stuff and the money that they've sunk into him and how he's been hurt, not on the field. That there's talks is they're going to cut him, trade him, whichever. Look, there's I will say the one bright spot on this Cleveland team that I was kind of surprised by coming into this year. I didn't pencil this guy to be one of the better wide receivers, and that's Jerry Jeudy. Someone who it was in Denver, didn't really get utilized, I don't think, to his ability, but you're seeing now he is a better player on a bad team. So he's going to have a lot of people calling for his name, hoping to maybe get a trade, in fact, for the offseason. So I think that he's been a really good bright spot for them. But I think for this one, I'm going to go with Miami getting the win in this one and hold on to their playoff chances.
Yeah, slim, but not none, at least not yet. If they win, they got a chance. And for Cleveland, especially their fans, Logan, gosh. Baker, why couldn't he do any of that stuff for us?
Yep.
There's got to be a little bit of seller's remorse there. Excuse me. Next game that we're going to talk about has plenty of implication. There's still so you're telling me there's a chance for Green Bay when they go to Minnesota, they pull a win here. They're already in the playoffs. They've got 11 wins right now. They're in. But there's an outside chance if Detroit loses their next 2. Well, Minnesota, it plays Detroit next week. So Green Bay is just going to basically try to get another win, do so at US Bank Stadium. Talk a little bit about how the implications are here for the Packers going against a surprising. I did not think in any way, shape, or form that Minnesota would be 13-2. So congratulations to the Vikings.
No, the Vikings have far and exceeded my expectations. And like I've said for weeks now, Harper, if you would have told me prior to the season starting that the Minnesota Vikings have a chance to, one, win their division, be one of the most dominant teams in the league, and do it with Sam Darnold as your quarterback when you drafted J.J. McCarthy with your first-round pick, I would have said, what fiction are you reading? But here we are, right? The season about to come to a close here in a couple of weeks, and Minnesota has just been electric. They've looked great. Sam Darnold has been throwing the ball like there's no tomorrow. He's done great. He's got 32 touchdowns on the year, Harper. Just an absolute gunslinger. So I'm glad to see that he's finally getting a chance to shine after kind of being cast away for many years. So you're starting to see that potential turn into on-the-field success from all those years ago when he was drafted. So glad to see Sam Darnold doing great work there. But, Aaron Jones was a quality pickup this offseason, who they got coincidentally from Green Bay. He's done good work for them. But for me, when you look at Minnesota, Harper, it's got to be that receiving core. It's got to be kind of, you can honestly say it now, the two-headed monster of Justin Jefferson, who, look, is always going to be one of the top receivers in the league. He has been in that conversation for many years now. But also the emergence of Jordan Addison, a guy who has won the Biletnikoff Award back in college and had a bit of a shaky start to his NFL career, but has really shown improvements this year. He's got over 800 yards through the air. He's got 56 catches on the season, and he's got 8 touchdowns. So you've got 2 really good options, and it's shown that Sam Darnold, and also credit to the coordinators and to the head coach for getting good plays to get those two guys open as much as possible. For Green Bay, Jordan Love, he's done really well in recent seasons, right? He was drafted when Aaron Rodgers was still there, and everyone was wondering, yeah, why the heck would you draft this guy? We have Aaron Rodgers, right? The Packers were doing well at that point. They were making it deep into the playoffs, and once you saw that Rodgers left and you said, all right, it's time for Jordan Love to shine, he's done really well for himself. Over 3,000 yards in the air, 24 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, but he's only been sacked 11 times as well. That's credit to his elusiveness and also to the O-line for keeping him up and intact. Josh Jacobs, another, essentially you traded him for Aaron Jones, right? So that's going to be kind of a budding rivalry there. Josh Jacobs, who they picked up from the Las Vegas Raiders, who we just talked about, he's been a really big help for them, Harper. 13 touchdowns on the ground for him, over 1,200 yards rushing, and a 4.4 average, which is really solid. Jaden Reed has really stepped up this year. I know Christian Watson, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to play in this game. He was a little bit banged up, so I'm not sure if he's going to be able to be fully suited for this matchup, but I would hope he would if he's able to, because he's a really good talent. And the defense as well. They've got 43 sacks, Harper, for Green Bay, so they have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. So this is a can't-miss game. If you like high-quality, good football, and, I mean, this is two of the best teams in the league clashing at the best time of the season.
Logan, there are 4 teams in the NFC that have given up less than 300 points, 299 or less. 2 of them are in this game. The other is Detroit and then Philadelphia. So defense can win championships for you. And I was as surprised as anybody to see the numbers defensively for Minnesota. And then you mentioned Green Bay. They've always had a good defense, but they're playing well right now, and that's why they have 13 wins, or at least why the Vikings, and then Green Bay has 11. So very interesting perspective there. The next game that we're going to look at, another defensive team that has really played well this year, is Washington. This is a flex game. This has been moved, and the Commanders right now with 10-5, their plus-minus ratio is 84, plus 84, so they're scoring a lot of points there. Jaden Daniels has surprised me in some respects because I didn't think he would be this good for this long. He has proven himself as, in my opinion, a finalist for the Rookie of the Year, going against an Atlanta team that, because of Tampa's loss last week, Atlanta slips itself into first place there in the NFC South. At 8-7, they're tied with Tampa, but they win the tiebreaker. Talk a little bit about this late Sunday night game.
Yeah, I'll talk about Washington first. And to me, Harper, I think Jaden Daniels has kind of had that Lamar Jackson effect in terms of you get drafted to a team who is kind of scuttling, right? In Washington, they've kind of had, obviously, the identity crisis with their names being changed multiple times and just trying to get back to the playoffs. You had, Ron Rivera's coach for a while now. You pick up Dan Quinn, see what he can do as a head coach. But Jaden Daniels, and I agree with you 100%. I believe that if he isn't going to win the award, he's definitely going to be a nominee for Offensive Rookie of the Year, with just how he's been able to turn this team around. Look, we knew coming out of college that Daniels was a phenomenal quarterback. He's got over 3,000 plus yards in the air, 22 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions as well. But I will say he is prone to getting sacked. He's got 38 of those on the season. So if Atlanta wants to capitalize on that, that is where they have to get it. And we've seen in recent weeks, Harper, that the Atlanta D-line has started to pick up. A little late than never, but hey, they finally got it going here. And we saw last week, they got back-to-back wins. They beat the Raiders barely, but then you had a dominant showing, which is what we've been waiting for all season from this Falcons team. Granted, look, it was against the worst team in the league with the Giants, but you're supposed to beat bad teams like that. And credit to, I was impressed by Michael Penix. I thought that he did really well in his debut. He looked sharp. You saw that there was just an energy to the team that you hadn't seen in weeks past. But I think for me, the big the takeaway from that game is the running game with Bijan Robinson. I thought that he managed the game really well, that he had timely runs that helped, crucial third downs. He also helped out with he got into the end zone twice, so big for him. But the defense for Atlanta, Harper, they had 2 pick sixes. So the defense was doing great work against Drew Lock. And I think that if you're a Falcons fan, you're starting to get your mojo back at a good time. And for Washington, look, I mean, this is a team who is 10-5. Let's not forget they were. I think people forget where they picked in the draft this year, and they're 10-5.
Yeah.
So
second in the draft. Yeah. What am I saying? Yeah.
So I mean, just the fact that they've had this just insane turnaround so quick. I mean, look, even if you lose, I feel like if you're Washington, look, even if you don't even make the playoffs, right? They're 10-5, so they have a really good shot. But I mean, this has been a success nonetheless. You've got 10 wins on the year, so great for them. But I think this is going to be a really good game. Like I said, this has been flexed also to a Sunday night game. That's what the networks say. They said, look, this is going to be a good game here. Let's get these guys more in a prime time slot so more eyeballs can be on it.
Yeah, outdoors, it's going to be colder. I think advantage Commanders in terms of the weather and everything like that. Plus, they want to keep pace with Green Bay and try to move themselves up in the seedings there as a wild card. So we'll see how this turns out. The final game that we're going to look at, this is a Monday night game. And Logan, I'm going to call this the Injury Bowl because when Dan Campbell and Kyle Shanahan meet and shake hands at the 50-yard line when both teams are stretching, I'm sure one part of the conversation is, well, I can't believe you put your roster together as well as you did with all the injuries you had. And the other coach could say the exact same thing. Both of them just devastated with injuries, but Detroit obviously has handled it much better than what San Francisco has. I'm just incredibly impressed at the next guy step up. You're in there for a reason. Go do a great job and help us win. 13-2. Detroit has to go to San Francisco. This is also an outdoor game. They're an indoor team now. The weather will come into play a little bit, as it will a little colder than what I think the Lions may be used to. But if nothing else, I think the Lions are better prepared for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised with how well Detroit's done this year with the just laundry list of injuries they have. It feels like every week it's not just one guy that goes down; it's like 2 or 3.
It's 7 or 8. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane the amount of injuries that's on this team. But I mean, that's credit to the front office for picking up good players, good backup players to have and ready it there in case of an injury, and also great coaching, right, with Dan Campbell and all the insane coaches they have over there for making sure all these guys are prepared for plug and play with all the injuries they've had. So Detroit, look, last year they were the underdog, right? Where, oh man, let's do. I mean, it was a great story, but now look, I mean, they're still 13-2, and half their rosters gonna be watching this game from home. It feels like so they've done great, and like I said, unfortunately for San Francisco, the injury bug has not been as kind to them. There was all the stuff in the offseason with contracts, with Debo and whatnot, and Brock Purdy, he's been banged up. He's also, when he's on the field, it's been of a down year also. I mean, it's just been a rough year for San Francisco. So they're hoping to play spoiler in this game. But, I mean, honestly, Harper, I might have to go with Detroit just because they've just find a way to keep winning.
Yeah, it's 6-9. The Niners, it's 6-9. Their point differential is only 18. They've been close in a lot of games. They're so competitive, but we'll see how this one turns out. This is the Monday night game. Well, Logan, thank you for filling in for Vincent. A very interesting take. We went a little bit longer than what we normally do, folks, but a lot of very interesting perspectives, whether you're interested in your draft picks, whether you're interested in the wild card, whether a 7-win team still has a chance to make it into the playoffs, all of that's still up in the air with just 2 weeks left. But a very thorough look at all the games that took place here or will be taking place here this break week between Christmas and New Year's. Final thoughts, Logan, before we head on out.
A lot of good football games this weekend, Harper. Obviously, I think college has a little bit more of a spotlight with all the bowl games and college football games, but still a lot of playoff implications for the NFL that we've went through here today, and a lot of good games to watch out for this weekend for sure.
Yeah, plenty of important games for the NFL and the finals, which will be for next week. We'll discuss that at another time, but we want to thank you for tuning in. Logan Landers is our producer, engineer, and he's our co-host here today. Thank you, Logan, for being a part of that. For Vincent Turner, who was not able to be with us today, he's visiting family and he's on the road. Safe travels again to you, Vincent. I'm Harper LeBel, thanking you for tuning in to the NFL Preview Show here on 100 Yards of Football. Have a fantastic day, everybody.